Good morning, everyone, and happy first Sunday in August. It's an honor to be your MC today. My name is Todd Kimball. A reminder that humanism is a rational philosophy informed by science, inspired by art, and motivated by compassion. It advocates the extension of participatory democracy and the expansion of an open society standing for human rights and social justice. It is the first Sunday of the month, and as tradition, we have music on our first Sunday from Pete and Paul Barquette, otherwise known as the house band of HGP.
Okay, here's a Beatle tune. I give her all my love, that's all I do. And if you saw my love, you love her too. And I love her. She gives me everything, and tenderly the kiss my lover brings, she brings to me, and I love her. A love like ours could never die, as long as I have you near me. Bright are the stars that shine, dark is the sky. I know this love of mine will never die, and I love her. A love like ours could never die, as long as I have you near me. Bright are the stars that shine, dark is the sky. I know this love of mine will never die, and I love her.
The technology in our society is changing faster than ever. As technology evolves, so too do the scams aiming to take advantage of us. Fortunately, Louis DeNicola is here to inoculate us from those sinister endeavors. DeNicola is a freelance writer who specializes in consumer credit, finance, and fraud. He has focused on finances for over 10 years and has written over 2,500 articles for banks, lenders, credit bureaus, and publishers. Outside of work, you can often find Louis at his local climbing gym or cooking up a storm in the kitchen. Let's have a rousing ovation from our live audience at the Friendly House and a warm yet muted welcome from our Zoom audience for Louis DeNicola.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, but first I do want to thank Joyce for inviting me, David for doing a little sound check with me yesterday. But yeah, a little bit more about me. So I've been writing about finances for about 12 years now. I'm a freelance writer. I have my own business. I started really wanting to help people learn how to save money, whether that's travel hacking and finding good deals. Then I started focusing on consumer credit and taxes. I found that helping someone increase their credit score by 100 points could save them a whole lot more money than finding a $5 coupon. And I know way too much about credit, so I'm happy to answer any questions if you contact me afterwards about credit scores, credit reports, that kind of thing. And then over the last 4 or 5 years, I've focused more and more on helping people save their money in terms of not let it get into the hands of scammers. We've seen huge upticks in what's happening online with scammers, fraudsters. It's just been an explosion recently. And I found it interesting to understand what's happening, why it's happening, and help people protect themselves. So I'm going to get started with a little overview. We are going to talk about 10 common types of scams, but really it's both a type of scam and a theme or a tactic. And one thing we'll notice while we cover all of these, well, two things we'll notice. The first one we'll notice is that I'm a writer, not really a presenter. So apologies ahead of time. I'm usually behind a screen, not talking to many people. So some ums and ahs here and there. Maybe not the most exciting slideshow. So bear with me. But in terms of the scams, we'll notice some themes in how scams are conducted, how scammers go about doing this. We're going to see that any new scam is often just a twist on an existing scam. And I want you to look for some of these themes while we go through the presentation. And we'll have time at the end for Q&A as well, as I think that's the normal format. So starting off with some of those themes, scammers are after your money, of course, and they're also after your information. So that could be names, social security numbers, logins, like your username and password for accounts, anything that they could use or sell. And one thing we've seen in the last couple of years is that there's been a breakdown of what's happening on the scammer side. So it used to be one person would steal your information. They'd have to figure out how to apply for a bank account or credit card in your name. You have to figure out how to get past that financial institution's controls, how to get money from them, how to steal the money, how to wash the money to make it look like it's clean before they could use it. And now there's really more of a fraud ecosystem. So one person or group might be focused on just stealing your information, and then they sell it to the next person or group who figures out how to use your information. And this has led to the criminals being really smart and good at what they do. They've been working on these tactics for years, sometimes decades. They have lots of money. They have lots of technology. They invest in not only new technology, but in training new people who they bring on. So it's not a matter of how smart you are. They have figured out the psychology of different types of people and how to target each one. I have fallen for some of these. I have family members who have fallen for some of these. You see people who spend their entire lives trying to protect people from scams fall for these. But being aware of what's happening can really protect yourself. You can protect yourself if you're aware of what's happening, and you can put a few safety measures into place. So we'll talk about those at the end. And so some of what they're after, money, information, your trust. Once they have your trust, they can get your money or information. And they use fear. They use desire for wealth. They use well-researched tactics. Again, they've been doing this over and over and over, and they know how to conduct these scams. And then they use the latest headlines. So as soon as there is a big newsworthy event, there's going to be a scam related to that. So maybe that's COVID happens. Well, now there's scammers saying, if you want to get your government benefits, make sure you verify your information. Could you send me your name, number, email address, social security number? Oh, you just shared a little bit too much. And again, we're going to see those themes again and again. And anything that's coming forward, we don't know what the latest scam is going to be 3 years from now. But if you are aware of these themes, you don't need to worry so much because you'll be protected. So we're going to start with the first one. This is more of a broad category of scam, but it's the most common. So imposter scams. And this is simply a general category of the scammer pretending to be someone else. So one common one is called a grandparent scam, although it doesn't only target grandparents. Grandparents tend to be a common target. In general, older people that have more money, they might not be as in tune with technology, the latest technology. They might be more trusting, especially over the phone, so they tend to be targeted. So this is where one way this plays out would be a scammer calls you and says, I'm your grandson or granddaughter, you know, and I'm in jail, I'm in another country, I need $250 for bail, can you please send the money? They hand the phone over to the police officer who gives you the information. You send the money disappears because that wasn't your grandchild. And this has actually happened to my grandfather before. His phone rang, he picked it up, he said hello. The person on the other line said, hi, Grandpa, this is Michael. And that is my brother's name. They did the research. They knew that he had a grandchild named Michael. And he said, Grandpa, I really need your help. It's an embarrassing situation. Please don't contact my parents. Don't tell anyone else. Can you send me some money? And my grandpa said, you know what? Michael doesn't call me Grandpa. He calls me Papa. So he said, oh, no, it's okay, Michael. You can stay in jail. So luckily, he picked up on something that sounded a little bit off. And he didn't fall for it. But this happens all the time. Another type of imposter scam is a romance scam. And romance scams often start online, either on dating websites, social media websites, or they might even just start with someone texting you. It seems to be random out of the blue. Oh, can you help me out? Or they might text you something like, your pet is all ready for pickup from the vet. You being a good person, you'll want to respond, I'm sorry you got the wrong number, but that's an in for them to start a conversation. And romance scams aren't always romantic, although that's kind of the name that they've been given. Sometimes the person will form a platonic friendship, and they'll build a relationship with you over weeks or months. This isn't a short, I'm going to ask you for money tomorrow. It's, I'm going to build a relationship with you. I'm going to get your trust. And then I'm in a really tough situation. I'd love to come visit you. Can you buy me a plane ticket? I love you so much. I have this great investment opportunity. It's made me really wealthy. Let me share it with you. Send your money to my financial advisor. And that's kind of how they get the money out of the victims in romance scams. Robocall scams, you've all almost certainly experienced this. Your phone rings, you pick it up. It's the IRS, it's the police, it's some other organization saying, you're in trouble, please call us right back. And they're after your information. So broad category, think of someone pretending to be an acquaintance, a relative, a government agent, whether that's the police, IRS, FBI. Imposters, scammers also might pretend to be working for a large company like Amazon, UPS. And they'll be after kind of different types of scams, but that's a broad category to think about. You know, is the person I'm talking to actually who they say they are? The next is more of a tactic than a specific type of scam. What we call it phishing or smishing or sometimes vishing, all fun names. So the name has to do with the delivery method, but in all of these, it's someone attempting to trick you into sharing information or clicking on a link. When you click on a link, that might install malware or just bad software on your phone or computer, and that software can then steal information as you type it. The names have to do with, if it's from email, it's called phishing. If it's a text message, smishing. If it's video, it's vishing. This is often combined with someone being an imposter. So again, there's these types of scams and there's these themes. So an imposter might send you an email saying, thank you for buying this antivirus software. Here's your receipt for $500. And you say, wait a second, I didn't spend $500 on software. What are they talking about? So you download the invoice that they sent you. Turns out that has malware. Now your computer's infected. There was a recent really big article in Wired magazine talking about info stealers. It's a type of computer virus that can then steal whatever you're typing on your computer. So then they can get, when you log into your bank account or when you log into your social media account, they can see that and log in and take over your account. Another broad theme, phone-related scams. So if you have whether a smartphone or not, you have to be really careful about, again, these themes of interactions. So maybe it's a text, that smishing text coming in, a robocall, someone impersonating a government agent. And I wanted to just highlight three things we've seen more over the last couple of years that are related to phones, because they are common ways that scammers can trick victims or get into victims' accounts. So one is called SIM swapping. And this is when a scammer will call the phone company, say, I've bought a new phone, and will you please transfer my number to my new phone? But what they're actually doing is taking your number and transferring it to their phone. And they'll often do this in the middle of the night, so you won't notice your phone isn't working. They'll switch it back after a couple of hours. You'll wake up, you won't realize what's happened. The reason they're doing this is if you try to log into many accounts now, you will often get like a text message with a code. Enter this code, we want to verify it's actually you. Well, if the scammer has taken over your phone number, that code gets sent to them. It's sometimes called a one-time password or a multi-factor authentication password, but we've seen them often like the 4 to 6 digit numbers. Again, the scammers are a little bit lower on the supply chain here. They know that you have an account somewhere. Maybe they've bought that information or they've gotten it from you previously. Now they are breaking into your, let's say, bank account, and they have your phone number. So the bank sends them a code, they enter the code, now they're in your bank account. They can get money out of your account. Fortunately, over the last year and a half or so, a lot of the phone companies have put protective measures into place. But one of the action items I want you to put on your list is to contact your phone company, your carrier, and they almost all have, they call it different things, but some form of protection. So they will lock down your account, and before you can change your phone number to a new phone, swap that SIM card, you'll need to unlock your account. So this is a protective measure because the scammers probably won't be able to convince the phone company to do that if your account is locked down. So that's just a really helpful way to protect yourself from this type of attack. Related to this is OTP bots. So those one-time passwords that get sent to you, the scammers, it's this constant cat and mouse game. So they were using SIM swapping. SIM swapping is a little bit harder. Now, instead of stealing your phone number, let's trick you into sending me that code. All the text messages that banks send say, do not share this code with anyone. Scammers are really great at knowing exactly what that message is going to say and convincing you that it's okay. This is an exception. You need to share it with me. I actually work for the bank. It's okay for you to share the code with me. And instead of scammers figuring out how to do this with each individual account, they can buy a bot online, and the bot will do it for them. So the bot will contact you. At the same time, it'll contact the bank. It'll try to log into the bank. The bank sends you that code. The bot knows the code is being sent to you. They'll send you a message saying, we saw some suspicious activity in your account. Please send us the code we're sending to you to verify that you did not make this transaction. And you say, well, I didn't make that transaction. I want to make sure it's stopped. Here's the code. What you've inadvertently done is given that code that protects your account to the scammer. Now they break in. And we'll cover some ways to protect yourself at the end here. Similarly, the malicious apps. So it used to be that you'd have to really worry about your computer getting infected. Just be equally scared about clicking on links on your phone because your phone can get infected with malware as well. Or if you download apps from a website, that can sometimes be a way to unintentionally infect your device. So if you are downloading apps, always download them from the official, either Apple, Google, or Windows stores. A fourth kind of type of scam we've seen increasingly common is it's often going under the name of Zelle scams, because that's the payment service you can use to send money to people directly from a bank account. But it's similarly common with any kind of those apps that you send money back and forth, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal. And the idea here is that once you send money, the scammers can take it and cash out, and it's really hard for you to get money back after you've sent it. So you want to be careful about anyone requesting you send money to them using one of these apps. Some of the services do have protective measures in place now, so they can reverse your funds. There's been even congressional kind of insight intrigue. They're looking into Zelle is owned by a lot of the big banks. So Congress is looking into ways to make it so that the banks have to refund you if it's a scam. Some of the banks say they do, but it can be a really drawn out process. They often find an excuse. It doesn't always, they don't always get your money back if you fall for this scam. So you have to be careful about sending money via these platforms. That's not to say they're not great. If you want to send money to a friend, they're wonderful for that. But just be careful if you're buying something online, if you're using one of these payment platforms. Zelle in particular, there was a very common scam going around where you would get a message saying your account was compromised. There was an unauthorized transaction directly from your bank account. $200 was withdrawn. Let's get that money back to you. And what the scammers would do is they'd create a Zelle account that had your name on it, and it looked like you would be sending the money back to yourself using Zelle. They'd say, okay, here, log into Zelle, send money to this account. It has your name. Don't worry, the money's coming back to you. What they'd actually do is set up a Zelle account using your name, but their bank account information. So you kind of have to think about, would a bank have me send money to myself to verify my account? And often the case is no, they already have your information. Why would they do that? But in the heat of the moment, though, you're trying to protect yourself. Oh, I've been compromised. I need to verify I am who I am, so the hackers don't get into my account and steal more. Let me do this to verify my information with the bank, but it's actually a scammer. Another broad type we've seen is investment or crypto scams. So these have been around forever. If you think of any kind of Ponzi scheme, invest in this new company, come by the Brooklyn Bridge. It's all different types of investments or crypto scams. Crypto was really popular a couple of years ago when people were talking about cryptocurrencies being the get rich quick scheme. It is surprisingly still popular. I get a few of these emails almost every day. Here's the latest crypto. Come send me some money. You'll be rich. There isn't too much to talk about as in terms of like the specific scams here, but just keep in mind that when someone comes to you with an idea for an investment, or when they talk about an investment being at risk. So maybe you have some crypto. Oh, your wallet is at risk. Come secure your account. You enter your login information. That is a combination of these. So this is a crypto scam because it's related to crypto. It's an imposter scam because the person is impersonating the company that you're using to keep your crypto wallet. And it's a bit of a phishing scam. So they're sending you an email saying, log in to this page to secure your wallet. But when you log in, it's a fake page and you're giving them your credentials. I want to dig a little bit deeper into romance scams. This is because they are probably the number one type of scam that is hurting people. In 2022 alone, the FTC estimated that people lost $1.3 billion to romance scams. So that's about $4,400 per person. These scams, again, can be platonic or romantic. They often start by someone messaging you on social media, by someone sending you a text message. They might start on a dating app. One thing that's been really disturbing in the last I think about 2 years, we've noticed and learned about uh, the people conducting these scams are often victims themselves. So there are hundreds of thousands of people who have been trafficked and are forced to work in kind of scam compounds conducting these scams. Many of them are in Southeast Asia. They've been tricked into moving, being told that they have a good job. They arrive and their passport and identification is taken away. They're forced to spend 8 to 12 hours a day doing these scams. If they don't comply, they're beaten, their families are threatened. So the person on the other end is likely a real person. They might be a victim themselves. They're not necessarily enjoying what they're doing. They're not profiting from what they're doing. And they're given a playbook. There's learned, here's your new character, memorize who you are. They're told, if the conversation goes in this direction, here's how you trick this type of person. If it goes to someone, it not only targeting Western countries, but different countries will have different ways of targeting people. It is particularly bad because of how drawn out the scam gets to be. So it might start with an innocent conversation. Maybe it becomes a friendship. The person conducting the scam will often make excuses for why they can't meet with you in person. Sometimes it might be, I'm a military member deployed overseas. Other times it's just they live overseas and they can't get a visa to the US. They play out in different ways, but sometimes you'll see the person you're talking to online slowly hint at how wealthy they are. Maybe they're talking about traveling very often. They might be talking about how they've bought a new car and look at this fancy house I live in. And they're actually given images to share with you of different kind of wealth status symbols. And the idea is to make you think, oh, how did you get this money? And that's when they tell you about, well, my brother is really good with this type of investment. A couple weeks later, my brother has a new opportunity. Would you like to invest as well? Why don't you try $100? And you invest 100, they show you a screen. Look, you doubled your money. And slowly they'll start draining funds from you. They alternatively might kind of play the victim. I really want to come visit you, but I don't have the funds right now. Can you send me a gift card that I can use to buy a plane ticket? Can you help me out? My mother is at the hospital. We really need to pay the doctor. We don't have health insurance in this country. Can you help, pay for her medical bills? So they kind of play out in different ways. It used to be that you could detect this type of scam by doing a video call. And you'd see, well, the person doesn't look like the images they've sent. Their voice sounds a little bit off. Now we're seeing with technology, people can create, you call it like a cloned voice. So they might take someone else's voice and replicate it. So it might be a man sounding like a woman or a woman sounding like a man. They can create fake faces that actually go on top of their face. So as they move, the face moves. As they speak, the lips move. So now it's really hard to know if, who you're talking to, whether that person actually is that person. And I'll share, there's someone on LinkedIn who is a cybersecurity researcher and scam researcher, and he often posts videos of what scammers are doing and the technology they're using. And in spite of it being terrible, it is also amazing what they can do with technology. Keep all of this in mind for yourself, but also for your friends. If you have a friend who's talked about being in a relationship recently, I just met this person, they're great. Start asking a few probing questions. If they've only met online, they've never met in person, it doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. I certainly have friends who are now married because they met someone online. But you really want to watch out for these romance scams. They are some of the worst. And again, you're being victimized by a victim themselves. So it's kind of bad all around. I want to move on a little bit. That one I touched on a lot just because of how important it is. The next is what kind of a broad category of online purchase scams. So this is actually something I've fallen for. Fortunately, I was able to get my money back, but I was on the hunt for a little electric battery that I could hook into a solar system. And it was an early morning. I hadn't had my coffee yet. It was, I think, like a Black Friday kind of deal. I was on Facebook and I saw an ad for the exact model I was looking for. I clicked on the ad. It brought me to a website. It looked pretty official. They had all the official images, the website. It looked like the URL looked a little off the name of the website, but it was pretty close. I could pay with PayPal, which is kind of risky if you're sending money directly to someone else, but it was okay if I'm buying something from a company. And I purchased one of these batteries. It was on sale. There was only 5 of them left. The sale was ending in 10 minutes. I had to make a purchase right then. And as soon as I clicked buy and I got that receipt in my email, I went, oh no, that was fake. So what's happening here? You will see listings on online marketplaces. You might see it on like a Facebook marketplace, a Craigslist, eBay, or scammers will actually pay and buy advertisements on social media and online. What they do is they create a website that looks identical to the real company's website. They just steal the images, they steal the words. The URL will look slightly different sometimes, but it can be really hard to detect. And they collect your payment information. If you enter your credit card information on that website, maybe they have your credit card information now. A best case scenario for you is that they're doing something called triangulation fraud, where you purchase a product from that website. It's often offered at a deep discount. They use a stolen credit card to buy that product and have it shipped directly to you. So in a sense, you do get the actual product for a discount, but it's been purchased with stolen payment information. So if you have any trouble, you want to return it, it won't work because you didn't actually buy it from the company. You are also putting your own information at risk because anything you've entered on that website to create that purchase, have it shipped to you, they're probably then stealing your information and using it to buy the next product. So that's kind of the triangle of the stolen credit card information from someone else, the purchaser, and the scammer. A lot of these websites, they last for about 2 or 3 days and then they get taken down. So it's not like there's no fight against this, but it's really easy to create a new fake website because they're just stealing information anyway. Some of the red flags you want to watch out for: the high pressure sales. So like when I bought one of these, there was 10 left, and then there were 9 left, and there were 8. It was clicking down. It was dropping so quick. I better buy it right now. It was a limited time sale. The price was really low. Okay, what's there to lose? Even if it's not perfect, it's just, it's like half off. This is great. So those are the types of kind of red flags you want to keep an eye out for. High pressure sales, really too good to be true prices. If they require a payment type that can't be refunded, in my case, PayPal, you can refund it if you send money to a business. But if they're requiring you to pay in like crypto or gift cards, things where you can't get your money back, Zelle, that would be a red flag as well. Employment scams have also, they're not quite as popular right now, as the job market's pretty good, but you will see these scams play out in several different ways. One is scammers will post a job listing, and their intent is to collect your information, not necessarily any money. So when to apply for the job, they'll ask you, a normal job application requires name, address, social security number for a background check, and they're just stealing that information. Alternatively, there are some types of employment scams that will actually steal money from you. So they will say, here's an easy work from home job. Sometimes they'll go through a complete interview process. You might have several rounds of interviews. You will be told you got the job and they will send you some equipment. But if you could pay the shipping for the equipment, that's all you need to do. We'll refund you. We're just having trouble with our payment system right now, they might say. But you're actually sending money to a scammer at that point. Alternatively, they might use something called like an overpayment scam. And this has been common for years, and it happens in different ways. But with an employment scam, they might say, here's your first paycheck for $5,000 or you were supposed to get paid $1,000, here's 5,000, and then they'll say, oh, you know what, we accidentally sent you too much. Can you refund us that $4,000? Keep your $1,000 paycheck. So sorry about that. What's happening there is they are using stolen information to send you $5,000. It often takes 2 to 5 days for banks to verify that the payments they receive or send are real. They'll show you the deposit in your account, so it looks like it was deposited. Several days later, it'll disappear from your account because it wasn't actually real. And if you have sent money back to the scammer, your account will now be negative, or you'll be out whatever you sent to the scammer. You won't be able to keep anything that they sent you because that was a fraudulent transaction. And so these type of overpayment scams, they happen with employment scams. They're also common on like online marketplaces. If you try to buy almost anything on Facebook Marketplace or eBay, sometimes these will happen where someone will accidentally send you too much money and ask you to refund the difference. By the time you've refunded that difference, that original amount has disappeared from your account. There is another type of employment scam that is kind of a gray area in the sense that you are actually doing a job and they are actually paying you. This would involve depositing money into your bank account and then transferring money to someone else. So they might say, I have a business overseas, I'm having trouble. Your job is to take deposits, forward some, you keep a cut of the proceeds. It sounds a little shady. It's really easy money. You're just depositing and transferring. You get to keep a cut. The reason it's so easy is because it's illegal. That's money laundering. And so even if you don't know what you're doing is illegal, even if you weren't aware you were part of this, it is a federal crime. So you want to be careful about any job that involves depositing or transferring money. Again, there's been this breakdown of what criminals do into different pieces, and they call this a money mule job because you're carrying the money across. Recruiting people to be money mules takes some of the risk off of them. It makes it easier for them to transfer money they've gotten from these scams because you are actually Todd Kimball. This is your real bank account. Todd requests a transfer from his bank account. Well, it's Todd's account. He can move money if he wants. But if you're moving money that's from fraudulent activity, that is illegal, even if you didn't realize it. Check fraud has also gotten really popular lately. Cat and mouse game, as it's harder and harder for criminals to steal money online or move it around online, they might move back to checks. Banks didn't think checks would be an issue, so a lot of the fraud prevention measures haven't kept up. What happens with check fraud is criminals will steal checks out of the mail. They will wash them, which is literally washing a check in chemicals to get the amount and the recipient's name washed off the check. They'll write in a new name and they can write in whatever amount they want. It's a real check. They kind of cover the signature part. So if you send a check to someone, they have your real signature, they have your real check. Now they can put their name on the check or the name of a money mule they're working with. They can put whatever amount they want. They go deposit the check into their account. Some good news here is that if you are the victim of this, meaning if one of your checks was stolen, you usually can get your money back. And ideally, the bank does it really quickly. But there's sometimes where it takes weeks or months for you to get money back. So even if in the end you're not kind of at a loss, you have to spend a lot of time dealing with this. And during that time, you might not have any money. One way to protect yourself is there are specific type of uniball pens that have something called super ink that it's harder for criminals to wash off of checks. Some groups have now, instead of washing checks though, they'll take a digital image and they figure out how to kind of erase and then print new checks without having to use that washing method. So having a special ink can protect you in some cases, not going to protect you from everything. Honestly, at this point, I would just not send any checks in the mail. I tell my family not to send me any checks in the mail. It's not worth it. If you've heard of mail carriers getting held up and bags of mail being stolen, this is one of the reasons why. They're just after checks. And there are videos online where you see people flipping through hundreds of checks that they've stolen. They're going to wash those, deposit those, take the money. Alternatively, they might use kind of one of your checks to try to withdraw money, but it tends to be the washing and depositing. After they've deposited into a money mule account, it's easy for them to take the money out. On to the 10th one, more as a theme and a tactic than a specific type. So we've probably all heard of AI in one way or another. Some of the ways that criminals are using AI to conduct scams and fraud. I mentioned earlier that they can clone faces and voices now. So that's particularly important with romance scams. It comes into play there. It might happen even with like a grandparent scam. So this video is going to be released online, which means a scammer now can have at least, they only need maybe 2 minutes of my voice speaking, and they can recreate my voice. So now if they're gonna use that to target my grandfather, they have my voice. It'll sound just like me. Potentially, I don't think the technology is quite there for them to steal my face quite yet, but give it a couple months. It's being worked on. They can probably recreate my face pretty quickly. Additionally, the AI can be used in any kind of scam where they're sending you an email or text message. You know, it used to be you'd read an email, and if the language was off and there was a lot of spelling mistakes, well, that's probably a scam. Now ChatGPT is writing that email. It sounds great. There's no grammar mistakes. That's no longer something you can use to know whether or not it's a scam. It's also one of these things that we don't know what we don't know yet. So the technology is continually evolving. There's going to be new ways for scammers to use it. You just got to be extra careful these days, I'm sorry to say. So we've kind of covered a lot of different tactics, some specific scams that are being conducted. I want to wrap up a little bit with how to avoid scams. And similar to how scams are broad, it's broad themes. These are some of the things you can do to protect yourself no matter the type of scam. So the first is just to be skeptical when someone contacts you out of the blue, whether it's a text message from a person or it's a text message saying, your package is being delayed, click here to view your tracking information. Even if you had a package coming to you, be a little bit skeptical. If someone calls you, it is always okay to hang up, look up that company's number directly from a source you trust, and call back. If it is a legitimate company agent, if it's a legitimate government agent, they do not mind if you hang up and call back. Even if they claim to be the police, the IRS, the FBI, if anything, you can say, you know what, my phone call dropped, I'm sorry. What are they gonna do? One thing that scammers do is they keep you on the phone, they keep you in contact, they kind of keep you under their spell. So if you can do anything to just take a minute to pause, take a few deep breaths, that helps. If you're feeling scared because you're feeling threatened, if you're feeling excited because you just won the lottery, if you're feeling overwhelmed because there's a lot of information coming at you and your computer is infected by some virus, so says a pop-up or so says an email, again, just try to take a minute, take a deep breath. If I had done that, I wouldn't have fallen for that fake website scam. I wouldn't have gotten so excited about getting a deal. Would have recognized it before I checked out. One thing to think about is to look around you in the room or in the Zoom group. There's hopefully some friends here. Take a minute to call a friend or call a family member and just ask, what do you think about this? Sometimes just having a second opinion can be really helpful. So third, just don't click on unknown links, whether it's a text message or an email. Those can lead to malware getting installed on your device. And then that can be the start of you being a victim. Fourth, so secure your accounts. So I used MFA here, but that means multi-factor authentication. So a lot of accounts let you enable multi-factor authentication, and that means they might send you a text message or an email when you try to log into your account with that code that you need to that you need to enter before you can log in. We did talk about how scammers get past that sometimes, but it is actually a fairly simple protective measure you can take. And the idea is even if someone steals your username, steals your password, they still can't log into your account because they don't have that code. Another thing to do is make sure that all of your accounts have unique passwords. And unique meaning different from everyone else, but also not following a theme. So a pet's name 1, pet's name 2, pet's name 3. That's not really going to work as unique these days. You can almost assume that any password you used 5 years ago has been leaked in a data breach. It's time to change it. And if you're using a pattern like that, there's literally a single document that was leaked recently with 10 billion passwords in it. And that can be tied to users' account names. So if you use your email address as your account name and a similar password across multiple accounts, it can be fairly easy for someone to break into one of your accounts. So that's why it's important to use unique passwords, and it's important not to use a theme because it's not necessarily someone sitting there guessing. It's computer programs running and looking for, oh, this username always uses pet name followed by a number. Let's spend 15 seconds trying every single number combination, pet name combination we can with this username to try to log into one of their accounts. If you have a password manager, something like 1Password on your accounts, or like iPhones have that keychain, that can be a great way to do it because each one of your passwords is then very long, very secure. It's unique, completely different from one another. Next red flag to look out for, any kind of overpayment. So we talked about this in terms of employment scams, but it happens with all sorts of scams. Don't refund any amount that's been overpaid to you. It might feel wrong. You're not stealing money from someone else. There is a very, very high chance that overpayment that they sent to you wasn't real in the first place. And within a couple of days, it's going to be gone from your account anyway. So just pause. Don't refund overpayments. The next, look for suspicious payment types. So we talked about how Zelle can be suspicious, PayPal. PayPal can be very legitimate. Of course, it's a giant company. If you're buying from a known business, PayPal is great, and there are some protections. But if anyone asks you for gift cards, always a red flag. Gift cards, once you send it, you can't get the money back. Although they are working on ways to change that. Any kind of cryptocurrency, and they will walk you through how to set up a cryptocurrency account and send it. So don't worry about that. They have they have people who specialize in teaching you how to do it. So if you think, oh, I don't know how to do it anyway, just be careful. But also more traditional types of transfers, money orders and wire transfers are also fairly popular among scammers because it is really hard to get that money back once you've sent it. And finally, one for the AI world is to create a family password. So talk to your kids, grandkids, brothers, sisters, parents. If I get a call from you and you say you're in trouble, what's our family password? Because I can't trust that your voice is your voice anymore. I can't trust that your face is your face anymore sometimes. And so this actually happened to me recently. My sister called, or that's what my phone said. And she said, Louis, I'm logging. I lost my phone. I just got a new phone. There's going to be a code sent to you. Can you read me that code? And I write about this stuff all day, so I'm a little paranoid, more so than other people. So I said, no, tell me something that only you would know. And so she told me something about my brother that only she would know. And I said, okay, here's the code. But that was like word for word what a scammer would say. I need that code that's being sent to your phone. I'm in trouble. Can you send it to me real quick? I lost my phone. That's why you don't see a familiar phone number coming in. So having that family password can be helpful as well. And then a few places if you want to learn more. Joyce found me on Experian's Ask Experian blog. I have a lot of this presentation came from 2 posts I wrote there. One is called the 10 most common types of fraud. There's the latest scams you need to be aware of in 2024. I'm not affiliated with Experian beyond being a freelance writer for them. If you or someone you know has been a victim of identity theft or any type of fraud, the Identity Theft Resource Center is a nonprofit, and they offer counselors who can help you restore your identity, understand what's happening. If you prefer to listen to information, there's a couple of podcasts to check out. What the Hack is a very story-like podcast, and they'll talk about different hacks and scams that have happened recently. It's like a nice entertainment kind of podcast. Fraudology is much more in depth. It is someone who works for businesses dealing with fraud and scams, kind of nerding out about the topic for like an hour and a half. So if you want to go behind the scenes, Fraudology is great. Scam Rangers is a little bit in between. If you want to see some wild images and videos of people conducting these scams, having stacks of fake checks, follow David Maiman on LinkedIn. He's now working with a company who has fraud prevention technology, but he's also a researcher at a university, and he has a group where they break into the dark web or social media kind of groups where these scammers operate, and they have fake accounts set up, and they study what scammers are doing, and then they release this data and this research. So he's always posting really wild videos of a cloned voice and a face as part of a romance scam. Also, feel free to connect with me. I don't use social media much, but I am on LinkedIn, or you can email me directly. I do want to also leave plenty of time for Q&A. So if anyone has any questions, I'd love to answer them.
Thank you so much, Louis. An outstanding job today. Very thorough, very educational, and somewhat scary. So that's how that topic is supposed to be. I'll start with the first question today as we're waiting for the numbers to be assigned. I'm curious how the laws are written in this area. I know that's a broad question, but let's take your consumer example, the battery you bought. Was it illegal to create the fake website, or was it only illegal when they took the money? Likewise, in romance, is it illegal where does the illegal part kick in on some of these scams?
There's trademark infringement, copyright infringement. They probably used fake information when they were registering the website. There's a good chance they used fake payment information to pay for the website. But you know what? Maybe they were located in Indonesia. So what are you going to do? There's a whole lot of US laws that might be illegal, but if the scammers aren't located here, it doesn't really matter. Also, it can be difficult to catch some of these people. There are lots and lots of these groups and individuals who are located in the US as well. And there are enforcement actions against them. Groups do get taken down. Individuals do get taken down and sent to jail. So it's not like nothing is being done. A lot of it is international, and in that sense, international agencies are going after them. You see police forces working together across borders and interborder agencies like Interpol. But there's been such an explosion. But when I talked about romance scams and it really is a slave trade that's going on. It is literally hundreds of thousands of people being imprisoned, forced to work these scams, and that is happening primarily in a place that is kind of run by, at least from what I've heard, a like Chinese mafia in a different country. So yes, it's illegal, but I mean, everything along the line is illegal. So there's only so much that can be done there.
Okay, you've spurred a number of questions. I'm sure you expected that. We have 5 at the Friendly House. I'll ask another one from Zoom that should be pretty quick. Okay. It's a typed question from Beth. She says, what do you think about facial recognition versus the written password?
Facial recognition is actually pretty strong in terms of a great way to protect yourself and log in. It's also very convenient compared to trying to memorize really big passwords. I use facial recognition for my accounts. It is not foolproof. There is a whole kind of back and forth cat and mouse fight between fraudsters creating programs to create fake faces to get into accounts. But if you're doing your own account, I think it's pretty good. You probably want to have a strong password as well. So even if you're using facial recognition to log into your accounts, if your account has a weak password, someone else might be able to break into your account using your account and username. So just because you have facial recognition on your device doesn't mean that they have to use it necessarily. But I think it's a pretty good protective measure.
Sounds good. Let's go to our first live question at the Friendly House. Questioner number 1.
Suppose I want to buy something online from a company I don't really know anything about. It's not Amazon, who I've had good experiences with, and it's a very tempting something I'm tempted to buy. And of course, they require that I enter a card number. Is there any difference in the risk between using a credit card like American Express compared to a Visa debit card? And the part B of that question, just everyday purchases in person at a grocery store or at a restaurant, is there any difference in the risk between a credit card and a debit card?
Sure. So there's kind of 2 layers to this. Technically, from a legal standpoint, credit cards offer a bit more protection. I think you're limited to $50 in if you have a fraudulent transaction versus debit cards. The risk technically depends on how long it takes you to report a fraudulent or unauthorized transaction. The risk can go to, I think, unlimited after 30 or 60 days. Realistically, not the law, but company policies at Discover, Visa, MasterCard, American Express all have 0 liability in place. So you're not really at risk as long as you report it right away and you didn't give someone else your card and they did a fraudulent transaction. You were trying to do a real transaction. It turned out to be fraud. They all have 0 liability coverage on them. I actually think that makes credit cards really safe. Yes, I fell for a scam, but I was using my credit card to check out. I knew that if this wasn't real, I could get my money back because I was using a credit card. It's actually so easy to get your money back with a credit card that companies have to deal with it as a type of scam, that people make a real purchase and they say it was fraudulent, give me my money back. The credit card issuer gives them the money back. That money comes from the merchant. It doesn't come from the credit card company. They call it like a friendly fraud or a first party fraud because you are claiming that you were a victim of fraud when you weren't. But I would say, although the amount lost, technically it's going to be 0 and 0 with debit card, credit card usually. I would default to credit cards as long as you're not paying interest on that card because that account isn't tied to your bank. So the debit card, although the risk might be 0, you might have to wait a couple days or a week to get the funds back, and that money's coming right from your bank account. So then you have to deal with not having that money in your bank account. With a credit card, there's that layer of protection where it's not directly linked to your bank account. The money's not coming from your bank account. For that reason, I find credit cards to be a little bit safer.
Let's go back to our Zoom audience for a question from Gail.
Yeah, this is just a kind of a comment. I have the do not disturb function on my phone. So it only rings when it's from a contact. So what I do is when I, if somebody's a legit contact, I put them into my phone records and then, so they'll ring when that, and the rest of the time I get I can look at my recents and I get scam calls up the yin yang. But guess what? They're not ringing, so I don't answer them. So I don't get someone saying they're my non-existing grandchild. I don't have grandkids, but or whatever. But I find that's a very helpful. The only time it gets to be a problem is doctor's calls. Let's say you're expecting a call back from a doctor. Well, they might be calling from a variety of different numbers. So I kind of have to leave it open if I'm expecting a doctor call. And I don't know a workaround for that. So, because you could put his office number in, but he might be calling from a different location, not from the office or whatever.
Yeah, I like
most
that.
of the time it's pretty darn good. I would say it's been a really good protection. I also use Malwarebytes on my computer, and actually it was weird because when you were talking, it came up that they had done a scan for me, and I came up with nothing bad. So I've been using that for several years, and it's been pretty good. But I don't know any other. I get concerned. I have a bank account at a major bank, And if I've had the same username for years and years and years, I've changed my password every so often. In fact, about every year or so, I'm changing my password. But I don't know if I should change my username because I've had the same one.
I actually don't know. It's going to depend on the bank, even if you're able to change your username. I think often you won't be able to.
Oh, really? Okay.
Um,
It's not my email. It's just a made up name.
right. You might be able to. Actually, that's a good question. I also have used the same usernames for a long time, and I've been a little bit worried about that. I think, if you're changing your password regularly, that's a good practice. And I like that idea of kind of the do not disturb, but being aware that you might need to pick up some unknown numbers if you're expecting a call.
Yeah.
Smart.
I'll read a quick question from David McMillan in the Zoom before I get to question number 2 at the Friendly House. He says, I've been using the LastPass app for managing my passwords, but they were hacked. Should I drop them and use another password app, or how should he handle that?
Yeah, that's a big question. So these password managers, they are really great in that you can create all sorts of unique passwords and you don't need to memorize them. A really safe password is one that you don't know as well. LastPass did get hacked. I go back and forth on it. I mean, on the one hand, they're under a lot of scrutiny now, so maybe they've really tightened up and put in some great protections. On the other hand, if you don't have a good track record, I personally, I've used LastPass in the past. I currently use 1Password. The switch wasn't because of the hack, just had to do with what we were doing as a family. I don't have specific advice there. That's kind of a cybersecurity question that I don't have a clear answer to. I think a lot of cybersecurity people did switch away from LastPassword because of that. And if you do want to switch, when I switched from LastPass to 1Password, they did make it fairly easy to download a whole list and import it using all sorts of your master passwords and whatnot. So it takes time, but it's not a huge effort to make a switch if you want to.
Sounds good. Let's go to question number 2 at the Friendly House.
Yes, I've seen the opposite of you were talking about going online and looking for great bargains, finding out that they turned out not to be great bargains. Lately on eBay, I've seen a lot of stuff listed at 10 to 12 times its actual value. What's going on there? Maybe there's just a lot of people who want to get the best, so they want to pay the most, but I don't think that's likely the case. I don't know.
That's an interesting one. There is something that happens on marketplaces where someone would create 2 accounts with like a fake, and they'd have fake credit cards information in one, and they'd use it to buy an overpriced item in the second one, and then cash out of that account receiving the money. So it'd be a way to drain funds from stolen bank or credit card information accounts. So maybe it's something like that happening. I don't know. Are you searching for like something that has suddenly become really popular? I could see it maybe being a way to take funds out of stolen information. Other than that, maybe there's hoping for the best and listing it really high, and they don't realize, no one's going to pay it. But
Al was on the cutting edge of trends here at HTTP. we count on him to keep us in the loop.
Yeah, make a small offer. See if you can get it.
Sounds good. I see all the questions coming in via Zoom. Dave, you're doing a good job of updating me on that. Thank you. But let's go to question number 3 at the.
Okay, here's something that might keep you up at night. I've been getting a couple of scam junk mails that say they're coming from my own email. I hover over the sender's name, and sure enough, it comes up as my email. And one of them in the title was "Hello Pervert." And a lot of these are, I think, extortion scams. And I can't, report it as phishing or whatever, because it'll be my own addresses coming up. So I just delete them and assume that they're just trying to get information, force information out of me.
Yeah, I think that's a smart call. When you hover over the email, it has your name and the email address. Is it actually identical to the email address?
Yeah, my own email keeps showing up every time I scroll over, or I hover my mouse over the return or the sender's name.
Yeah, so I've seen something similar, but not quite the same. They may call it like spoofing. It's when you kind of have like a look-alike email address. So this actually happened to a family member. I assume someone got into their account because everyone in their address book started getting these emails that looked like it came from them. So is their name, if you dug a little bit past that, just hovering over, you can look at the details of the sender, and you would see that it was actually coming from a different email address, but just using their name. So it looked like it was from them unless you kind of knew what to look for. And those emails would have things kind of, they'd be like, oh, remember this? And like just a link. Or, oh, here's 2 great photos. I just found them. And just a link. Of course, I didn't click on these links, but they were just sending it to everyone in that person's address book.
Yeah,
but I have seen. Sorry, go
the
ahead.
first one I looked at, they were telling me to send like $1,300 in crypto to this address.
Sure. So that is also, I'd say if it's coming with the hello pervert subject line, it's something maybe called a sextortion scam. That is, it can play out in a few different ways. Really disturbingly, this tends to target teenage boys, and it's actually led to like over 30 suicides at this point. So it's a pretty serious issue. It might start with someone sending a message like that, and they've created an image using AI or otherwise that's, you know, explicit image saying, I'm going to leak this to all your friends and family members if you don't send me money. Sometimes it has been someone has started a chat with someone, they share some explicit images of themselves, they're not actually of themselves, they get some explicit images in return, so they are real images of that often child, but it can target anyone, and then they start threatening to share those with family members or friends if they don't get paid. I would say that's probably not what's happening in this case if it looks like it's coming from your email address and not from someone else. But that, again, there's these like themes and there's these twists on different types of scams. So that could be a twist on that. I don't know. How many people want to see a naked Mike? Like, they go, might not like, you don't, I mean, obviously don't send them the money. I think you correctly identified it as fake. I'm curious about how they're making that email look fake. If you wanted to forward it to me, I would take a look and see if I could look at some kind of, maybe an indication that it was a spoofed email.
Sounds good. Jules, I see your hand up. We'll get to you momentarily, but first let's go to a quick heads or tails type question from Hank Robb. He writes, which is more dangerous, paying by check or paying by Zelle?
People that work for me.
People that work for you, I would pay them by Zelle. If you know the recipient, they're not requesting money from you. They're not saying your account was compromised. Here, use Zelle to verify your account. I think that's a fairly easy, quick way to pay them. If you pay them by check and you hand them the check, that's
Well, the checks are in the mail. The checks are in the mail.
I wouldn't mail checks these days. I mean, I live in an area where mail theft is pretty common, but it's common all over the country right now. So I would just try to avoid it. And Zelle, I don't think there's any fees to send money to someone as well. So
right,
they get paid quicker. They might, you know, money goes right into their account. They don't need to take a picture of their check or go to their bank to deposit it. They might enjoy it as well.
Thank you.
Jules has had his hand up in Zoom for a long time. Jules, go ahead with your brief question.
Can you hear me?
We got you.
Okay. So the AARP reports in their newsletter that annually billions and billions of dollars are ripped off Medicare.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't seem to stop. You would think that amount of money, there would be some shield or something that would protect the government or whoever making these payments. What do you think is going on there?
Yeah, so medical identity theft is definitely a big issue. It tends to target Medicare as well. You know, there's a whole lot of government money. It can play out when someone steals your information and then uses it to maybe go get pills or go get a medical treatment using your information. That can be dangerous for you because then your medical record could have wrong information in it. So you want to keep an eye on your own medical record for that reason. The Medicare theft also happens because doctors are complicit in it. So sometimes it isn't necessarily the patient doing something as much as the doctor maybe adds something to your visit and then bills Medicare for it. So they do get taken down sometimes. Every couple of weeks, it seems like there's a group of, it's usually a couple of people working together that they get arrested, but it is a big issue. I don't have an answer for that one. Yeah.
One final comment. So all of these people who are falling into the scam mode, are they suffering from the Bernie Madoff virus, the Ponzi scheme virus? Everybody feels that there's something good to gain without much effort, and they give into it. What is it that allows people to leave themselves so vulnerable?
It goes in two directions. So yes, it's kind of one, I'm really scared and I'm going to fall for the scam, or one, I'm really happy and here's a great opportunity. So that's maybe more of the Bernie Madoff effect, as you say. And Madoff was smart in some ways because he was a 10% return. It's good, but that seems reasonable, right? He's not offering the moon. What makes people fall for it? I think it varies by person. Sometimes it is. Well, one of the reasons that these scams are effective is because they target so many people, and people are in different mindsets. So, like maybe right today, it's not a big issue for you, but maybe a couple months from now, something's happening in your personal life, something's happening with your family. You really need a little bit of money. You're under a lot of stress. Maybe you have the flu, and that's your mindset shifts, and they take advantage of you at that point. And they're just targeting so many people that there's always someone that falls for it. So that's why it doesn't come down to how smart you are. We are all at highs and lows at different points throughout our lives. So we can hit all
Thanks,
of us.
Thank you so much, Louis. Thank you.
Let's go to question number 4 at the Friendly House.
Yes, I noticed during your presentation that you use Windows rather than Mac. And aren't Macs actually more secure in terms of having less of an issue with viruses and their kernel is protected much better than as we discovered a few weeks ago than Windows. But I'm surprised you're using a PC rather than Mac.
Yeah, that comes from me being a gamer, and it was easier to build a gaming PC than buy a Mac one. Macs are expensive. I think that holds up a little bit, especially with mobile devices. iPhones are a little bit more secure than Android, and how they're put together. You still got to be careful on Macs these days. For a long time, that was the case. Like you didn't really have to worry. It's not so true anymore. Yeah, Macs are a little bit safer though. That's true.
We'll take 2 questions in a row from our Zoom audience before we go to question number 5 at the Friendly House. Let's go to Joyce in the Zoom audience.
Louis, first of all, you'll never convince me that you're not an oral presenter. This is outstanding. I would like to say very quickly to some of our members, those of you who sent us checks for our fundraiser for the seafarers this month, all that money did get to the seafarers. I just want you to know that. Okay. My question is, and this gets away a little bit from the technical aspects, but how do you keep your faith in humanity when you deal with this all the time?
Well, there's a lot of people fighting this as well. So like I said, I mean, I started kind of down this journey writing about personal finances, like how to budget and save money and how to build your credit. And I kind of found myself in this fraud world. But there are lots of groups, and they call themselves fraud fighters, who are dedicated to stopping this. It does seem like there's been more of, maybe not acceptance, but maybe a little bit of like a cultural acceptance of like, here's a way we can trick the system and get some money, not thinking about the victim so much. But there's a lot of good people out there too. So it's sad to see what's happening, but there's lots of people fighting it.
Thank you.
I'll read a question from the Zoom audience from Willie that is very current to our time. She writes, how can we know if political text asking for donations are real? I get them practically every day.
Oh yeah, I've gotten lots of emails and texts and calls recently. Here's one of those situations where I think it's probably safest to just look up on your own if you want to donate money and make that donation. So there's a good chance it's real, but that's also one of those, it's a great example of how here's the latest headline news, big election coming up. It's a great opportunity for scammers to send out links. So it's just safer to look up on your own. They're going to make it easy to give them money. You're going to be able to find that information. So don't, yeah, I wouldn't respond to that text if you're interested in giving money. Just find that link directly. And that also is true, especially around like the holidays. There's charity scams where people it will look like they're raising money for a charity and won't go to that charity. So always kind of try to look up the organization on your own, whether you're making a bill payment or a donation.
Let's go to question number 5 at the Friendly House.
A wonderful presentation, Louis. Really enjoyed it. I am a strong believer in a monthly budget. And when I talk to my nieces and nephews, my daughter, who are, all of them are in debt, college loans, things like that, they look at me like, and I can just see, yeah, thanks, old Aunt Helen, that information's interesting, but they don't listen. Your face, your attitude, they'd listen. How do young people what's good information for young people to start to budget and check their credit card? You know, they don't look at their credit card monthly bill. They just use it and then keep a balance.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a hard one. I feel like that's kind of a mindset shift that it's hard to force onto someone. One thing that I think can be a nice starting point is don't talk like budget. It's kind of like the B word. It's like, it feels very constraining. You're going to like limit what I have to do. Like, I don't want to have to track this and then feel bad every time I go out to dinner. So take some of that pressure off and maybe just see what it's like to track your spending. Not limiting it, just to track it for a month or two.
Okay.
And then take a look at it and see how you feel. Yeah, I don't have an answer for how to get someone to do that, especially if it's coming from a family member, right? Like, no one wants to listen to their family members about money.
But what would be, instead of making a recommendation, just saying, I heard this interesting guy, how can they listen to you?
Well, I write about it a lot. If they want to look up my name, they can find some of the writing. If they have questions about credit, I'm happy to answer those. I also keep a nice budget. I like to use a program called YNAB, or You Need a Budget. It's gotten a little pricey lately. I know there's a new one called Monarch if they want to like connect their accounts and see how their spending trends go. But I think the good starting point that I often recommend is just to keep track of what you spend, not to limit it, and just see if you see any interesting insights and see if it actually aligns with your values.
Louis, you spurred a lot of questions today, and that
Great.
is always the sign of an outstanding presentation. Thank you so much for your time today, for your information. You made it entertaining, made it very understandable, and we all learned a great deal today. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you again for having me. And if you have more questions, feel free to reach out to me and connect with me.
Thank you so much.